Riley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, June 19th. So we have the moon in Pisces all day, as we kind of explored yesterday. The moon in Pisces has pros and cons, just like everything else. Every aspect, every planet, every energy has pros and cons. Now, we got off to a little bit of a rough start yesterday, emotionally speaking. A lot of defense mechanisms got triggered. A lot of loneliness and isolation got illuminated. But here's the thing, we have an opportunity with these aspects to really identify what it is that we're currently thinking, what it is we're currently feeling, what it is that we need to be focused on healing. That moon in Pisces, hypersensitive, very intuitive, very empathic, very compassionate, very much wanting to heal the system, the cycles of our past. But also, if things can get a little bit too much, we tend to want to bury our head in the sand. We tend to float off into la-la land. We tend to want to numb, to run, to hide. We do have to be very careful of how we use this energy. And we have a couple of different aspects here today that is really going to complicate the kind of positive traits that the moon in Pisces does want to lend us. We have 11 different aspects taking place here today, and 8 of them involve the moon in Pisces. Just another little quick headline here. Today is the very first full day of Mercury being at its fullest speed moving forward. We are now out of the shadow period. We are now experiencing the degrees in this Gemini energy that we did not experience back in early May before Mercury went retrograde. This means wheels are turning, pressure's on, lots of pressure in the head, lots of competing thoughts. And we do have to just recognize, again, if you didn't listen to the ascension forecast for the week, you should. We have to just realize that we are coming to the end of Gemini season. So there's a push. We are coming to the solstice gateway. So there is pressure. And we are wrapping up the final days of Venus, our goddess of love and beauty and pleasure and worth and money, in her place of power in Taurus. So there is a lot of push and pull. There is a lot of urgency. There is a lot of intensity. And now that Mercury is full stop out of the post-shadow period, we are going to feel that pressure amplified in our thoughts, in our communication, and in the information coming in, changing our minds, changing direction, changing our thoughts and ideas for the future. So, right out of the gate, we do have Venus in her place of power in Taurus energy, working on embodying all of the qualities and characteristics that we know we have to kind of take on in order to build new foundations within ourselves, to find the happiness, find the joy, find the silver linings, even in the darkest moment, so that we can enjoy ourselves. We can lighten the vibe. We can really kind of full stop, kind of understand what it is that we can do within ourselves, regardless of what's going on outside of us, to find peace, safety, stability, security. We have Venus sextiling with Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces energy, its rulership as well. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, so Neptune is very mystical, very dreamlike, connected to the metaphysical realm, if you will. We bring insight in, intuition in, dreams, creativity. We bring it down to the lower level of our ego that Venus rules over in this physical realm, this physical avatar. Venus figures out if it makes her feel good or not, if it brings worth and value to her life, and how to actually manifest it, how to actually give birth to it and create it. So a sextile is a very good energy, means that we're blending these energies together. But here's the thing, this is in such close approximation to some of the aspects that popped off yesterday that kind of created that isolation, that loneliness, that defensiveness that we had to put up in order to truly protect our raw, vulnerable feelings, that this could manifest in a couple of different ways. First of all, we could embody the positive qualities and characteristics of this aspect, which means that We could have an aha moment. We could have a moment of inspiration. We can have a light bulb moment that leads to our healing, leads to our dreams, leads to creative solutions to some of our problems. We could have an overall transformation in our heart space, in our heart activation, in our head space, rewriting the narratives of our past experiences that have led to some of the wounds that we're now actively trying to heal. This could be a aha moment, peeling back the layers of our spiritual growth, understanding the spiritual lessons that we're in order to truly evolve our soul, our spirit to its highest form of potential. Or we could definitely see the negative traits come out, which is going to amplify that loneliness, amplify that emotional chaos, amplify this disassociation, this overwhelming energy, not knowing what to do with it, wanting to run and hide, wanting to not deal with the here and now, not wanting to deal with the work that needs to be done in the physical circumstance, in our physical realms, in order to actually stabilize our emotions, stabilize what it is that we're working on, building, creating, birthing that brand new foundation that we're actively piecing together, that we will be kind of building our dreams upon. We don't want to move into victimhood. That is very much a high probability storyline with these two particular energies coming together. Victimhood is not a good vibe. We want to understand that the things that happened, quote unquote, to us were actually happening for us. Even the worst storylines have been divinely scripted by your higher self in order to trigger and activate an amount of strength within your soul, in your spirit, that you wouldn't have otherwise had to realize, had to actualize, had to materialize in this realm without that storyline, without those circumstances. So we want to avoid victimhood. We want to move into empowerment. This is the goddess energy, the divine feminine. We want to use our not so nice past experience, pain, suffering, in order to create a storyline of inspiration and motivation for us to be empowered, to move forward, to make something beautiful out of something that was, typically speaking, kind of ugly. The moon is going to semi-square Mars. So here's the thing. Semi-square is a little bit of tension point. Mars is the masculine energy, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire, even our aggression. The moon in Pisces is a water energy. Mars, especially being in his place of power in Aries energy, is a fire energy. Here's the thing with water and fire. If there's too much fire, meaning too much aggression, too much action without thinking thoroughly about the consequences, too much pressure, too much intensity, too much passion, too much desire, too much fire, just evaporates our emotions, our creativity, our dreams, our receptive flow of surrender, going with the cosmos, going with the universe. Now, if there's too much water, so too much emotion, too much intuition, too much dreaming, too much creativity coming in that we're not doing anything with, we are going to snuff out that spark, that fire. We are not going to be able to take action. We're not going to be able to aggressively bring forth our passions and our desires. We are essentially going to just water our passion and desire down. Too much dreams, not enough action, nothing happens. Too much action without inspiration, dreams, and intuition is just a waste of energy. Typically speaking, we're just creating a mess. We're just doing something for the sake of doing something without thinking of the long-term consequences of our actions. And that essentially is a waste of energy. What we want to do is we want to balance the water and the fire, which means that emotionally speaking, we have to do something with our emotions. We can't just let our emotions bubble up and bounce around inside of us. We have to take action in order to actually move it out of our body, exert it in a healthy way. That's that Mars energy. That means exercise, organizing, taking a step forward in bringing a project to life, identifying what needs to be done. And again, we have to make sure that we're not overdoing the action without bringing forth the inspiration that we need to keep that fire going, to keep that high vibe going. So this little tension point is putting us in a situation where many of us are not balanced in this water and fire energy right now. Many of us are either living in our inner realms in la la land and dreamland, just conjuring up a state of being that has nothing to do with our physical lives. And there's other people on the other spectrum that are just, out here just aggressively pushing through the obstacles and challenges that they don't even really, need to be pushing through, because now is a time to kind of sit back and surrender until we're gifted the green light go ahead by the universe to actually take the action. And again, not having a focus, not having a direction, just kind of, taking action, making moves for the sake of doing something is a waste of energy. So this can create a lot of frustration. It can create a lot of irritability. It can be so overwhelming because our dreams and our inspirations don't seem like they're even possible in our physical circumstances right now. And that can really tick off the god of war and really put us in a situation where we're just frustrated. And of course, we can project that outwards in our physical realm and cause a lot of drama that just does not even need to pop off. So we have to be cautiously aware of how we're balancing our emotions, our dreams, our inspiration with the motivation to take action, to make a move, to actually spend our energy in a way that will benefit us in the long run. The moon is going to bump into Uranus. Uranus is the great awakener. Uranian energy right now is in Taurus. That's why our physical circumstances have been kind of shook up and rattled in all the right ways to expose the cracks in the foundations in which we've been building upon. And this Uranian energy, typically speaking, likes to stroke our rebellious nature. It wants to show us where it is we have to be a little bit more independent, a little bit more free, especially when it comes to self-sustainability, self-sufficiency. That's that Taurus energy. We are tired of relying on external resources in order to get us through. And the big lesson that we're going through right now, especially on the great grand stage of the collective, is that we have to kind of pull our resources in. We have to be a little bit more sustainable with, our money, our food, learning skills and talent, so that we don't have to constantly be looking at external sources in order for us to survive and live in the way that we wish we could be living. Now, the moon bumping into this Uranian energy in Taurus is going to give us a lot of aha moments of inspiration. These aha moments are going to be soul-led. We're in Pisces energy. We have to listen to our intuition. We have to listen to our soul state. And that poses to be difficult for some people because our soul, our spirit, is telling us something that totally does not align with our current physical circumstances. And that is where trust comes in, my friends. You have to trust the process. You have to trust the greater, grander plan. As long as you are aligning with a raw, authentic vibration that makes you feel good, that makes you feel like you have a mission, have a purpose, that is the guidance that you need to be following, not this egoic, physical realm of materialistic circumstances that many of us are very uncomfortable with, that we will be changing in a very rapid way over the next couple of months. So this particular energy is kind of illuminating for us where it is that we do feel trapped, where it is that we do desire more freedom, where it is that we have to get a little bit more creative with the solutions that we need to come up with in order to resolve some of the problems that we're currently facing in our physical circumstances. And this Uranian energy just opens our minds up. It helps us to adapt to change a lot more quickly than we would have even last week, last month, last year. The sun is going to aspect Chiron, the wounded healer, in a very positive way. Now keep in mind, the sun illuminates, right? Shines a bright light on what needs our attention the most. The sun is nearing the final degrees of Gemini, kind of wrapping up Gemini season. This is all about the mental plane, thoughts, ideas, perspective, perception. This is choices, decisions, past directions. This is skills, talents, communication, information. And there's a lot of new information now coming in that Mercury is out of his post-shadow period and now exploring degrees in this Gemini realm that he didn't get to explore before he went retrograde back in May. So this is kind of shining a bright light on Chiron, which is the wounded healer. But here's the thing. we've already kind of experienced the build up to the wounds. That's kind of what popped off last week. Now we're coming up with solutions on how it is that we're going to feel better about ourselves, about our ego, about our identity, about our path, about our direction. But the sun is kind of like, hey, I'm shining a bright light on the issues here, your choices that you've been putting off, the decisions that you need to make. You do have to, decide. You have to lean into one path over the other. And this Chiron energy is here to just remind us of how uncomfortable we've been, how unsatisfied we've been, so that we can see where the solutions are now kind of emerging, now that we have acknowledged and now that we're willing to feel some of the issues that, yes, we are actively trying to heal. Now, the moon is going to square Mercury. A square is a tension point. The moon typically is our emotions, our unconscious self, our attachments to the old. And Mercury, as you know, in Gemini, this is new territory for Gemini. For this Gemini energy, Mercury only made it to 4 degrees in Gemini before we went retrograde. So this is Mercury's new venture, if you will, in exploring these degrees in Gemini. This square, this is very much the heart versus the head. This square is creating a tension point because Mercury rules over our lower level intellect. This is where our ego adds logic, adds practicality, looks at the information coming in, and due to just the physical information coming in from our physical realm, makes a judgment call, adds calculations and strategy to come up with a plan. But the problem is that the moon in Pisces doesn't really care about this present moment. We're more focused on the future. We're more focused on what our heart, our soul is telling us that we need to do. That does not line up with our current circumstances, right? This is what the problem is we've done so much work in our inner realm that now we're realizing how unaligned we are to our physical realm. And many of us have no clue what to do in the physical realm in order to start mirroring back the way that we feel in our inner realms. This is where the disconnect happens because our soul, our spirit, our heart space is attached to a vision, to a dream that we know, if we trust in ourselves and we trust in the universe, is 100% possible. But then we come back in this present moment in the meat suit, and Mercury, ruling over our lower level intellect from our egoic experiences and education and wisdom, is saying to our heart space, our soul space, I don't know what y'all drugs are on, but there's no way that we can switch up our physical circumstances in the here and now to match whatever, la la land you've been envisioning in your head. This is a tension point. This is a conflict. Our heart and our head do not agree. This is needed though, because we need to see where compromise is needed, where we can kind of cooperate, bring our dream state just a little bit down to earth, bring our earthly state just a little bit up higher to reach that magical realm of inspiration. And in the middle, somewheres we're going to come up with an aha moment. Now, adding to this, the sun is going to bump into Pluto in not the nicest way. This is really going to complicate our decision-making process. And again, we're in the final degrees of a lot of different aspects here, wrapping up Gemini season, jumping into the solstice energy, wrapping up Venus being in her place of power, which means that the pressure is on for us to decide, to make a choice, to make a decision. Now, the pressure that we're feeling under this aspect, again, the sun is shining a bright light on the choices, the decisions, the thoughts, the ideas, the direction, the path. We have Pluto, the great transformer over here, retrograde, doing an inner evaluation, if you will, on where it is that we're afraid, where it is that we're kind of letting our past disappointments, our past rejection points, our past failures prevent us from putting ourselves out there again, from taking a risk, from, dreaming too big of a dream. And this whole process kind of cluster F's our head right now. So the decision that we have on our plate is only going to get more difficult. There's an adjustment that is needed here to shift us out of a state of fear paralysis, out of a state of reflecting back on all the times that we tried to do something and we failed to bring it to life, and push us into realizing that screw that, that was just prepping us and preparing us for this moment. Because when I step into my power, when I step into my authority, when I am truly aligned with the raw, vulnerable aspects of my higher self, my soul self, I just feel like this time it's going to be different. The power shift is needed. The power shift is needed first and foremost in our psyche, in our mind space. Then that changes our emotions. When our headspace and our emotional state is on the same page, we engage the physical body, we have a whole different vibe, we step into a place of power, then we're able to engage the body in action. But this is like a temporary mental cluster F setback. This is when we are going to start speaking fear into our dreams. This is when we are going to essentially be feeling powerless, not in control, not in authority. Why? Because we have to spiral down before we can pick ourselves back up. We have to break things down before we're ready and mature enough to break through. And this essentially is a huge psychological, emotional, mental growth that is needed in order for us to be prepared to anchor some choice points in under the solstice gateway that's coming at us in just 2 days. So the moon goes ahead and bumps into Jupiter, and this is going to amplify whatever energy, whatever thoughts that we're currently sitting in. And the funk is strong at this point. Again, we feel in a lot of pressure, a lot of intensity. Now, Jupiter likes to grow, likes to expand on whatever it is that we're thinking and feeling. He magnifies that. He turns the volume all the way up. But this is a learning opportunity being triggered and activated by something taking place in our external realms that gives us an opportunity to either A, react and respond from our egoic selves, our old past patterns and behaviors, basically a wounded state, a defensive state, or B, we can act as the observer, recognizing that we're given a choice point right now, that we have the opportunity to respond, react in a different way in order to get a different result. Now, Jupiter is in Aries energy. He just wants to start fresh. He wants to do something new. He wants to initiate a new cycle. He wants new experiences. He wants new opportunities, but we have to grow through the uncomfortable process of recognizing what it is that we're moving away from in order to actually be gifted with the green light go ahead that we're going to get here after the solstice to go ahead and make a move, to actually bring new foundations and elements to life. At this particular point in time, I am going to say that this is, typically speaking, when our emotions, when our thoughts, when the stimulus in our outside world becomes to be a little bit too much, putting us in a state where we want to just detach from our realities, where we want to numb, where we want to run, where we want to hide, where we just don't want to deal with what's going on in our physical realm. And again, Jupiter's involved, so things are going to appear way bigger, way more dramatic, way more emotional than they actually should be. This is just a temporary thing. This energy will dissipate because the moon goes ahead and then bumps into the true node in a positive way, which means that the cluster F of energies that we just felt is bringing us to a choice point, bringing us to an opportunity where we, what we were confused about before, uncertain, scared to actually pull the trigger and decide on something. This cluster F of tensions actually puts us in a situation where we're like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of things popping off. I'm tired of dealing with certain people. I'm tired of dealing with certain situations. And from that, we make a decision on what it is that we're not going to experience anymore, what we're not going to tolerate. And from that, we now have a direction and a path that we're willing to follow just to create space from where it is that we're at and what it is that we've now identified that we don't want to do anymore. The moon is going to semi-square Pluto after that. This is another tension point, really amplifying the path, the decision, the direction that we're now leaning into. Pluto is the great transformer, but emotionally speaking, because the moon is in Pisces, we're a little bit all over the place. Just when we think we decide something, then we second guess ourselves. Then we kind of like lean all the way in. It feels really good. And then we start speaking fear and doubts and insecurities into our decision that we just made. This little tension point is kind of like the aftermath test after we just kind of decided on something, in order for us to sit with it and allow the Plutonian energy, which is the inner transformation that is needed, to really get in alignment with oneself. But let me just be very clear here. We're going to be very tunnel vision, very obsessed with one train of thought, one idea, one decision. Like, we're fixated at this point. We feel the urgency, the intensity building up on what it is that we have to make a choice point on. And this can feel very raw. It can feel very dark, very heavy. But you know what? We're at a very important crossroads. So the intensity should be there. Trust me, when you make the right decision for yourself, all of that weight is lifted. And that's how you know that you're trusting your gut, you're trusting your higher self, that you've made the right decision, that you are following the higher guidance that is, typically speaking, kind of being at war within you, going head to head with your ego, who of course does not want you to change, does not want you to improve, just wants you to stick in the same old, same old. The moon is going to go ahead and bump into Venus in a very positive way. This is helping us to really define what it is that emotionally we want, we need, we desire. We've chosen something. We're leaning into something. This feels good. We're finding the happiness. We're finding the joy. We're finding the pleasure in actually sorting things out and choosing one thing over the other. We are actually seeing where it is that we now are building towards something, where we're creating something new, where we're giving birth to new ideas, new emotions, new physical elements in the here and now. That is definitely going to be building the bridge to get us away from the things that we've identified we do not want anything to do with anymore. And of course, provide us with that bridge to get us from where it is that we're currently at to where it is that we desire to be. The moon, though, lastly, this is the last aspect for the day. The moon is going to bump into Chiron, the wounded healer, in not the nicest way. Let me tell you, this is how the dark force agenda plays. Every single time we take a step forward, every single time we're feeling good, we're vibing high, we finally gain clarity, we put a puzzle piece together, and we're starting to see the bigger, broader picture. Something always happens in our physical realms that's going to make us question whether or not we're actually going to be successful in bringing some of these elements to life. This is a prime example of that, because we just had a high. We just felt validated. We just felt happy. We just felt like we were on the right path and in an alignment with our mission and our purpose. So something's going to happen in our exterior realm that is going to either tick us off, make us angry, make us sad, question whether or not we have the energy, the determination, the motivation, the inspiration to actually push through the blocks and the obstacles and the challenges in order to actually bring our dreams and visions to life. Do not let the dark force agenda win, okay? You have this awareness, you have this information. You can expect that just when you're feeling good, just when you're feeling sure, that something is going to pop off in your physical realm to make you question what it is that you felt so sure about. Now pay attention to the energy that comes up. If you're manifesting anger in this energy, you have to understand that this anger, this frustration, is because you have already fulfilled certain roles, responsibilities, commitments that you're no longer aligned with, and you just feel like you're being sucked back in to the situation that you fought so hard to actually get away from. If you feel sadness, right? If sadness gets triggered for you, you have to understand that this is where you are failing to put yourself first. Sadness is the opposite energy of happiness. Every single time that we are happy and we're in that vibration, the dark force agenda wants to remind us that, guess what? Maybe you're not deserving of being happy. Maybe you're not worthy of it, right? And then it brings us back into the lower vibrations that, of course, they feed upon. And if anxiety is triggered in you, then this just is a suggestion that maybe you don't feel like you're powerful enough. You don't feel like you're in control enough to actually take the steps and have the determination needed in order to actually give birth to the new foundations, the new elements in our lives that we know that we have to bring into this physical realm for us to actually start building this bridge. So pay attention to the negative emotion that gets triggered in you, because that is our internal compass on what the dark force agenda wants us to sit in, which means that we have to fight that much harder to move away from those vibrations and to get back in alignment with the happiness, with the joy, with the certainty, with the inspiration, with the motivation that we just experienced, because we finally aligned with a choice point, with a decision, with a path, with the direction that feels good to our heart and to our soul.